I arrived in Costa Rica to spend a year teaching ESL, I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. I was looking forward to beaches and rainforests and monkeys, and I got all of that, but I also got a whole lot more that I wasn't expecting. So in the years leading up to when I turned 40 years old, I thought, okay, what can I do to celebrate? I thought maybe I would have a big dinner at a fancy restaurant, maybe I would rent out a venue and have a party, or maybe I would do a big trip. So in the end, I did decide on a trip, a year-long trip that is, to Costa Rica. So 2 weeks after I turned 40, Aaron and I packed up all of our stuff, put it in storage, bought one-way tickets, and flew to San Jose, Costa Rica to teach English for a year and to learn Spanish. I don't think I would have ever imagined myself teaching English or even moving to Costa Rica. But there I was, a 40-year-old man looking for something that his New York City life couldn't give him. Upon arrival, I found teaching English to be a bigger challenge than I had anticipated. I definitely underestimated how much work teachers do. From lesson planning and grading tests and writing progress reports and creating invoices to getting paid and writing weekly lessons and logging in attendance. This wasn't the Costa Rican life I thought I'd be living. I've definitely gained a lot of appreciation for all of the hard work that teachers do. No one should work for free, especially teachers. Traveling around San Jose to get to my classes was, well, as far from a walk in the park as you could possibly imagine. There isn't really one citywide bus system, but rather a ton of independent companies that all charge different fares. All the buses look different. Some look like school buses, some look like tour buses, and there are bus stops all throughout the city that have no marking. You just notice that there are people standing around, so you think, well, it could be a bus stop. It takes a long time to get from point A to point B because San Jose has such massive traffic problems. And there's no such thing as a system-wide map, so it's hard to figure out how the buses connect to each other. On an average week, I would commute anywhere between 15 to 20 hours on bus for 18 hours worth of teaching. This was by far one of the most challenging parts of living in San Jose that nobody tells you about. My students were working adults. They worked in jobs ranging anywhere from IT to finance to marketing to human resources. My students were from levels A1 to B2. The A1 students are the trickiest to teach because they know so little. You do have to kind of do a lot of the legwork in the classroom. But once you get to the higher A2 and the B1 levels, it's more fun because you can actually hold conversations with these students. My highest level class was a one-on-one with a student who was at a B2 level. He was learning French and Japanese and Portuguese at the same time that I was teaching him English. So he had a goal of learning 7 languages. It was really cool to be a part of his journey to accomplishing such a crazy goal like that. Since my students were working adults, my classes were scheduled before the workday, during a lunch break, or after the workday. For example, on Tuesday and Thursday, I had to be up at 5 to be at class by 6:30, with my last class finishing at 7 at night and arriving home at 8. Whereas on Friday, I had a one-on-one class with a student for 3 hours. In between all of this, Aaron and I managed to squeeze in Spanish lessons every Wednesday morning with a really creative, cool chick named Maria and her sidekick, Kana. The school I worked for didn't have lesson plans, so I had to create everything from the ground up using resources from the internet. I taught everything from verb tenses to phrasal verbs to conditionals to pop culture slang. In one lesson, I taught the rules for pronouncing regular past tense ed verbs. So for example, why do we say he planted a flower, but we don't say he baked a cake? In another lesson, we watched Jimmy Fallon interview Sophia the robot. Afterwards, we would discuss some of the slang vocabulary in it, and then had a conversation about robots. Usually when I do this lesson, all of the students agree that humans are pretty much doomed.
This is a good beginning of my plan to dominate the human race.
Pronunciation is always tricky to teach. In one of my classes, my student wanted me to distinguish between the pronunciation of dairy, diary, and diarrhea. Super important to know, right? The salary in Costa Rica is super low compared to what some of the Asian countries pay for ESL teachers. I taught about 18 hours each week of actual class time, add 12 plus hours of prep time, and then about 15 hours of travel time, and it all easily adds up to a full-time job. For 18 hours worth of actual teaching time, I made just over $200. Lesson planning time and travel time were not compensated. The salary is enough to pay bills and do a little bit of traveling. You're not going to be able to save any kind of money though. You're definitely in Costa Rica for the experience more so than anything else. Whenever I tell people that I spent a year in Costa Rica teaching ESL, I think they imagine me on a beach with my laptop, making lesson plans and teaching classes in my Tommy Bahama shirts, but there was so much more to it than that. In the end though, being in Costa Rica was a chance for me to go to another country and learn about their culture and also learn their language. It gave me the chance to see some beautiful beaches and rainforests and mountains, but ultimately being in Costa Rica taught me how important it was to know English to have more opportunities in your career. My parents came to the United States when I was very young, and because of that, I know English, and I think that knowing English gave me the chance to have a lot of the opportunities that I've had in my life. And so being able to go to Costa Rica and teach English and help others have more opportunities in their life is a blessing. If you found this video useful in helping you decide if you want to teach ESL in Costa Rica, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. And before I go, I just want to give a shout out to this here kitty. He was always greeting me as I was coming home from teaching my evening classes. I miss you, little guy.